Hello everyone, I'm James and welcome to my channel. I want to, if I may, take you on a bit of a journey. Not just through the story I'm writing, but through the mess of how I got here in the first place. Because for me, well, writing wasn't a plan, it was a survival really. I think I got into writing when I was 10. That was the year that grief hit the family and everything got quiet. Back then, especially in the early 90s. Families didn't talk about feelings. You carried on, stiff upper lip, for Queen and country, and all of that. What? But in my head, it wasn't quiet. It felt like a dam building, emotion stacking up with nowhere to go, no one to talk to, no words for what was breaking apart inside. A lot of people turned to different things, like drawing or painting, or vices or distractions, any way they can to get that out of their mind. And I guess I did too. That Saturday morning, I sat down to draw. I wanted to create the most expressive, vivid picture of how I felt inside. And I did. Just not with pencils or crayons or lines, circles, shapes or patterns, but with words. Turns out I couldn't draw to save me life. But the page, it became something else. Still a canvas, where the mess in my head had shape, colour and feeling. And the thing is, even when people won't listen, even when they think they know you before you speak, the page doesn't do that. The page hears every word I say. It doesn't judge me. It doesn't walk away from me. And sometimes that's all I need. I just need someone to listen. So why the blank screen, I hear you ask, with only the title of the story that I'm about to write? Well, it's simple really. When you think about it, for a writer, it's the first daunting image I face. Just a cold white page and a blinking cursor. Like it's daring me. Go on then, fill in the blanks. I always think of it, which is odd, but like the start of a snooker frame. Everything's set, it's calm and it's still. There's endless possibility sitting there and waiting. And maybe, just maybe, if I follow the rhythm, if you make all the right moves, you finish with that magical 147. Most will try, some will stumble halfway, others won't even get off the mark, and that's usually me. But now and then, someone else finds that rhythm. They hear the hush before the final black drops, and when it does, they feel the applause break over them like a rain. For a writer, that 147 is a publishing deal. It's the moment someone says, I believe in your story enough to share it with the world, and you realise I lined up every thought. I took every shot, and this time, this is mine. So can I do it? Probably not, eh? Can I follow the path, take the shots and reach the end? Or will I fall like so many before me? Who knows? But if you want to come along for the ride, let's go. That's how this started really. And why this video kind of exists. I'm starting again, only this time out loud. I'm writing a novel, and this time I'm inviting you into it. I'm inviting you to come along for that ride. It's called The Voice Only I Hear, again as you can see on the screen. It's about James, a man stuck in a numb life with a woman he doesn't love. That's not me, by the way, I'm single. Ladies, if you're listening. And it's about Kay, the voice in the head who never left. Because she can't, because she was murdered. Kay's best friend, Sophie, was a journalist. She was having an affair with a detective and uncovering dark secrets and betrayals from the detective, about the detective. And Kay witnessed something. She painted it without fully understanding. Then she disappeared. Years later, James finds himself in a relationship with Tracy, the woman who pulled the trigger. He doesn't know any of this yet, but that moment he leaves Tracy for Kay, choosing the voice over what was real, the past begins to crack open. He learns about a buried investigation about a detective's affair, a cover-up tied to a journalist's murder. Kay's best friend was silenced, and so was she. Now James is writing Kay's story, and the people who covered it up, they're starting to notice. So what will my channel be about? This isn't going to be a writing advice channel. Lord knows I'm not clever enough to do anything like that. I'm not here to teach you anything. Just to show you the process that I go through, the rough drafts, the rewrites, the doubts, the what the hell am I doing here moments, and there'll be loads of them. Character profiles, how I build character, how I build scenes, what type of planning goes into those scenes. You know, sometimes I go and visit places where these scenes are going to be set. I look around, I try and look at the weather, where these places might be set, so that I can then sort of go off on that day when the weather is like that. If I've got two characters sitting on a bench talking, whether it's something shady or just two friends meeting up or whatever, but the weather is right and it's setting the scene, then I can go, and then in my head I can sort of run the monologue of that scene to see whether it feels right, whether the actual sort of, if it does feel right, how are the clouds? Do they make shapes? What are the fine details on that particular day that sets that story apart from just two people meeting on a bench? So it might be the smells in the air. It might be, if you're doing a happy scene, you're going to want calm seas. You're going to want bright sunshine. You're going to want, the endless noise of children playing and, sort of pets panting as they walking by you with their owners and stuff like that. You really need to go and be in the scene for that moment. So that's what this channel really is all about. It's about me showing you the things that I do and the processes that I go through. It's about the times when I just sit in front of my blank space or page on the screen, and I just, in that blank, sort of page screen, I then start to sort of put the pictures of what I see in my mind on that page, and then comes the difficult bit. Then comes the soul destroying bit, where you actually have to write it and describe it. I already know what it is, but you don't, and I have to tell you, and I have to give it to you so clear that you can see it and you understand it the same as I do. Looking ahead, in the next video, I'll introduce my characters properly. I'll put them in scenes that may never make the final book, and probably almost certainly won't make the final book, because what we'll do is we'll drop them in scenarios that they're not gonna find within the story. So we need them, if a character's harsh, we need to put him somewhere where the situation is light and maybe he needs compassion or something. And the reason why I would do that is I want that character to show me whether he does have compassion or whether he really is a cold-blooded killer. And that will be very, very useful for when we come to create character profiles. We'll then know the sort of character that we're writing about. And sometimes when I'm doing this, I'll speak just personally from my own experience. I'm not going to sort of speak on behalf of anyone else, but sometimes when you're doing this and you put characters in situations, you just don't feel them. They just don't speak to you. They don't come alive. I guess in a way it's a bit like an actor going for a casting or a reading or whatever, and you hear them read it and you see them act it and you just think, this isn't believable. I don't care about you, you as the character that you're portraying, and B, you're just not that believable, and so therefore a character will get dropped. And sometimes and I've written stories where characters I've gone like, yeah, you're an amazing character, and I get halfway through a story, then suddenly that character gets into a situation or a scene or whatever, and I just think, you know what, you're so not right for this role, and then that book gets scrapped, because you can't carry on. um so I'd say in the next episode we will, we'll introduce those characters, we'll put them in some scenes, we'll put them in some scenarios where we want them to deal with something, whether it's a tragedy, whether it's something happy, whether it's a puzzle, or whatever it is, and we'll put them in there, and we'll see, sort of how they respond. Now, I've already done this with this particular story, and the characters that I've kind of mentioned in my sort of brief, introduction into what the idea is, they've already gone through this process. But I will actually do a video where I show that and I show what I do. And then what we'll do is once you've got your characters kind of set, which obviously at this moment in time I have, once we've got that done, we can then sort of then start to move on to character profile, because we kind of sort of think that these are the characters that we're going to stick with. So now we actually now need to flesh them out. Now we need them to have skin, we need them to have feelings, we need them to have discernible features that separate them from everyone else in the book, so that they get an individuality that is real to them. So as I say, we'll show that, we'll show the character profiles. So if you're into stories about loneliness and memory and buried truth, and maybe, just maybe, this is a story you'll want to follow. This is chapter 0 today, a beginning. It's not polished, it's just real. I just felt like, I could overdo this and I could overthink it, and I could just kind of spend hours and hours and hours on creating the most perfect thing. And the thing about writing is it isn't perfect. The thing about writing is that, as I said earlier, there are lots of times when you go, what the hell am I doing? Why am I doing this? Why am I here? I can't write. I'm an idiot for thinking that I could, but I've recently met someone, a very good friend, who we got talking, and as like I said, I happened to sort of just in passing go, oh, I'm really into writing, like an idiot, and they were like, oh, I'd love to read some things that you've done, and it's like, nah, you wouldn't, they're rubbish. And they've sort of read them, and that they've obviously offered encouragement and said that they're quite good. And then I kind of sort of sat there and I sort of read it again, and it had been a few months actually, this particular story, since I'd done anything to it, and I thought, actually, if I start it again but keep the premise of what I've got, really, I thought if I start it again, then maybe, just maybe, that will fall into place. And actually I've got someone that wants to kind of read it as I go. And then I kind of sort of thought, well, hang on a minute, that person feels that way about my work because they're the only one that knows about my work. What if I was to give my work to many more people? What if I showed lots more people what I do, why I do it, the reasons for me? And again, this channel will cover that. Not only will it cover this story, not only will it cover the processes that we have to go through, not only will it cover the the whys, the whats, the wheres, and the whens, but it will also, I'll also go into me quite a bit, the sort of the things that shape the writer, because I think writing is a given talent, in the sense of, I think anybody can write, but I don't think everyone, not everyone can see the story in things. When I go out, I went out last Saturday, for example, and I sat in a big crowd of people, And I was there well early before the show started, and I was kind of just sat there and I just observed everybody. This is what I do. I observe, and I'm very quiet and I'm very silent, and inwardly I'm making mental notes. And now that I've got myself a clever phone, I now jot them down on my phone so that I actually don't forget them, and that I actually can just sort of write out quickly what I'm seeing, what I'm feeling, and you know why people are doing the things they do. I'm really into human psychology, human behavior, and in the silliest of little things, I can create whole stories of why people, are doing what they're doing. And that's what this channel is about. It's about not just this story, but it's about, sort of me and what's gone on in my life. This isn't a self-indulgent thing. This is me trying to sort of show people that, because there are going to be other people out there that write perfectly well but never finish anything, can always sort of beat themselves up because I can't do this and whatever. And they try and tell people, and people perhaps like me that are in my life, they're not bothered, they don't care, they couldn't give a monkeys. And you just need that one person that does care. And if you are out there and you are listening to this video, or you are watching this blank screen flash while you listen to me talk, I care. I am out there and I will listen to you. Use the comment sections. Tell me what you're working on. Do you need a little bit of advice? Like I said, I'm not clever. I'm not an expert. I'm not a professional. I've had nothing published, but I've been writing since I was 10 every day, about shopping lists, about anything that I feel is important to me that day. I've been through really, really bad bouts of mental illness where, you know, you just get so lost in everything and you feel hopeless. And I guess really that's what for a lot of people writing is. They get lost in it and it's hopeless and all, they can't do it because they can't see the wood for the trees. Well, if you like, hopefully this video will be some sort of a tour guide for some of the people that maybe want to write. Like I say, I'm not an expert, I'm not a professional writer. I'm not paid in any way, shape or form. I'm doing this because I want to. I'm doing this because I feel that maybe the time is right for me to do it. And like I say, in order for you to understand the stories, you need to understand the person that creates them. I did a very fascinating thing the other day. I found a bit of software where I was able to have the software play the role of a character, and that character was interviewing me as its creator. And I learned a lot, not only about myself, but about my writing. And I think it was a very powerful thing. And I started to realize actually, probably now is my time. I'm 44 years of age. If I'm going to do it, I need to start making moves. And, that's kind of what I'm sort of doing now. So, hopefully you'll want to come along for the ride. Hopefully, in a way you'll care enough to watch and listen and to follow me. And, if you like something, comment. If you don't like something, comment. I've been through sort of many traumatic things in my life, but if you don't like something, I don't get offended. I'll probably come back to you with something along the lines of, okay, thanks for sharing, that's fair enough. What are your thoughts and suggestions then? How can I change that? How can I make that more, appealing to you? Or how can I make that more appealing in general, or whatever? Criticism is a necessity to improve, not only improve your work, but to improve yourself. I'm very self-critical of me and the things that I do, and I try to conduct myself in the correct way every single day. I try to be polite and well-mannered and different things, because I feel that's important. And so when I mess things up and when I get into situations where maybe I'm not quite that person or I'm not quite that temperament, then I can criticize myself and say, look, James, you handled that really badly, and this is why you handled it badly, and this is what you could have done instead of, and this is the result that I think it would have ended up as. So don't be afraid to leave your your thoughts in the comment section. And also as well, if you're writing something, either sort of, leave a comment, or, sort of leave a comment and just say, is there a way I can talk to you more privately about something I'm working on, whatever, and we can arrange that, we can sort that out. That's no problem. But yeah, so as I say, if this is something that you'll enjoy, hopefully you will, then why not give it a thumbs up? Why not subscribe so that you get to hear every time I drop a video? Thanks ever so much. And for today, I'll see you again soon.